hata yeye ni kama mimi. Range Rover yake Friday inakuwa nje ya hoteli, na kwambia watu ni kama wanyama Amboseli. Jua likizama pata pa kujificha ka refugee. Daudi kabaka namna hiyo ndivyo nywele zitageuka. Waitu kikutana na mambweha utaitana machaka, na bado wanakucheka ni makanivo na sisemi.
Introduce yourself and what you do.
My name is Caroline Mose, and I'm a PhD student at the School of Oriental and African Studies, which is part of the University of London.
Okay.
Yes, and I study culture, urban cultures, and right now I'm studying hip-hop.
Studying hip-hop. So, hip-hop, what's hip-hop according to you, the definition of hip-hop?
Hip-hop is a culture. It's an urban culture, an urban youth culture, basically.
Yeah. Simple as that? Simple as that. So, which part of Kenya is your research based on?
Nairobi.
Nairobi?
Yeah.
Why?
Urban culture, hip-hop is very prominent here, you know, like people do hip-hop. So, I mean, if you want to study hip-hop in Kenya, you have to start in Nairobi.
What made you develop an interest in studying hip-hop?
Started when I was very young. I discovered I had a handicap. And the only way I could overcome that handicap was to get up in front of people in things like drama, choir. So that's how I developed my interest. So when I got to the university, I discovered I had an option to study theatre. So I studied theatre in Moi University in Eldoret. And so in the course of studying theatre, I discovered theatre is a combination of so many things: music, dance, culture, all those things. But then there was something missing. So, and I was more interested in the youth component. So I found out that hip-hop actually encompasses theatre and youth and all those other, all those things that I've mentioned combined. That's how I got my interest in studying hip-hop.
The handicap? You talk about it?
Yeah, no. Let's move on to it.
So, who validates the results of what you research on hip-hop?
The people I'm working with. So if I come and interview you, I go and interview someone else, all those people, after I'm done with my research, I have to come back and give it to you and ask you so that you can see if my conclusions are correct, if I understood you correctly. So you are the people who are going to come and validate my research.
Okay.
A hip-hopper on the panel? Unfortunately not. And that is a problem. Because hip-hop has not been studied academically so far. Of course, there are studies on hip-hop. There are people who studied hip-hop in Tanzania, hip-hop in Senegal, and hip-hop in South Africa. But no one has done hip-hop in Kenya.
Yeah.
But overall, the study of hip-hop is not very developed. So there are no hip-hoppers out there who can come into the panel and say, this thing is being done academically, we need to validate it, we need to be in the academic institutions. And that is the unfortunate bit.
Okay. What are the sources for your research?
I have primary sources, I have secondary sources. My primary sources are the people I'll be interviewing, including yourself. And then I have secondary sources in terms of texts that these people have mentioned. We've studied hip-hop in Tanzania, hip-hop in South Africa, and West Africa. I'm going to be using those texts. Plus, the texts like we have people like KRS-One who's written books. So we have all these other hip-hoppers in the US, because the US is a rich tradition of studying hip-hop. Yeah. So the texts that they've written, the books, those are also going to form part of my sources as well.
Okay, so some of the benefits your study and research will have on hip-hop?
First of all, bring hip-hop from the street. The first thing, I think it's important to bridge the gap between the street and the academic world, academia. I'm hoping that my study is going to bridge that gap. Secondly, there's so many misconceptions about hip-hop. I think part of what I want to do is also to remove some of those misconceptions around hip-hop. And also to bring hip-hop into the limelight. Because I think hip-hop is very important in terms of politics, in terms of social justice causes, and that's what I want to highlight. Yeah.
Do you have an understanding of the culture, you yourself? That you can be able to know this is bull, this is real?
That in itself is a subject of my study.
Yeah.
To find out what is really, is there something like real hip-hop? What does real hip-hop mean? So all those are questions that I'm currently designing, and then I'll be asking now people like you.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your background with the hip-hop culture?
What do you mean background?
apart from the study, like, have you had any interaction with hip hop, like on a personal level?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of hip hop. There would be debate on whether I listen to good hip hop or bad hip hop, but I listen to a lot of hip hop.
Lil Weezy?
Lil Weezy, well, that's an interesting subject.
So which element of hip hop inspires you?
Rap, because it's poetry. Yeah.
Can you rap?
No, I've never pretended to know how to rap. I don't know how to rap, but I like to listen to people who rap.
So what other kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to a lot of classical music.
So how does your musical preference influence your understanding of hip hop?
So it helps me to understand hip hop from that very basic level, that you can borrow from different cultures, different pieces of music, and then come up with a new culture or a new set, a new type of music.
Then is the academic angle of hip hop accepted by the culture's practitioners? For example, more
Probably. I don't know. I'll probably be asking that question, but so far probably not. And the reason is that, like I said, there's a huge gap between academia and hip hop. And the problem is that people who study generally are perceived to be very elitist, very upper class, very far removed from the reality of people. So that gap between people who are here and people who are seen to be here, that is a problem. The academic study of hip hop might not necessarily be accepted by practitioners.
Is there a forum in Kenya where hip hop artists meet and brainstorm with academicians such as yourself?
No, and that's another thing I'm also hoping to give us an idea to the people. It's impossible for the people studying hip hop to exist without hip hoppers. It's impossible, because it's where we get our information, it's where we get our sources, it's where we get our lyrics from. Everything that we study comes from hip hop artists. So there needs to be a forum, whether it's a media forum or just a normal discussion every month, to discuss other things as well, the things that hip hop cares about, social justice, politics, etc.
Yeah. So in comparison to other urban settings in Africa, where would you place the development of Kenya's hip hop culture?
That's a good question. And I don't want to answer that question because I want to ask that question to hip hop artists. Because at the end of the day, because they're the ones who practice hip hop at the center of hip hop. Because at the center of hip hop, you have the hip hop artists, and then you have the people studying hip hop, and then the people listening to hip hop around that core. So that's a question I would be interested in finding the answer, or hearing at least what hip hop artists have to say about that.
If you could compare the London scene to the Nairobi scene?
London scene is very interesting. And this is a misconception about hip hop, that hip hop is the same everywhere. It's not. Hip hop in New York, for example, is based on an American culture. Hip hop in Nairobi is based on a Nairobi culture. Hip hop in London on a very British London culture. So I found the London hip hop scene to be a bit conservative. On the other hand, a bit vibrant, because it combines Ghanaian culture, a lot of African culture, a lot of American culture, a lot of South American culture as well, and a lot of European, French aspects. So it was very, I never had a chance to really study it and go deep into it, but listening to the music, I thought it was very interesting. It's very different.
Define underground and mainstream in relation to hip hop.
There's an African hip hop reader which is coming out in December, I think. And I'm writing a chapter on the mainstream underground dichotomy. When you say mainstream and underground, are we talking about the music, or are we talking about the culture, or are we talking about the artists? Because some artists do underground hip hop, they do mainstream, they do sometimes independent hip hop.
I think when it comes to underground and mainstream, it's more on the content. In that, Common, for example, right now is a very mainstream artist. Apart from his last album, most of his content is underground.
Exactly.
Because it's pro-black. I'd say this is the most popular rapper who is against interracial marriages. You see, so that doesn't go well with mainstream America, for example. So,
exactly.
Yeah. But he still likes Obama. I don't know why.